All right, guys, welcome back to Outspoken, where the word isn't watered down and the truth gets louder the more you listen.
Today, we're diving into 3 stories from Scripture you've probably heard 1,000 times, but we're not here for Sunday school surface takes. We're going deeper into the uncomfortable, the overlooked, and the wild beauty beneath the stories.
Yeah, guys, we're talking about the Samaritan woman at the well, Barabbas, the criminal set free, and of course, Jesus' wounds on the cross.
Each one holds layers of meaning, not just Jesus loves you, but how he loves, who he chooses, and what he paid. And spoiler, it's all more personal than you think. Let's get into this. All right, welcome back. And before we get started, make sure and smash that like button, subscribe to Outspoken, share the show with everyone you know, and hit the bell icon to get updated whenever we update a new episode. So, Joe, we're going to talk about some stories here of biblical proportion.
We are. And here's the thing, guys, and I'm sure you've seen it in our episodes. We kind of jump around. We do all kinds of things. In Outspoken, we talk about everything and anything. We try not to make it too preachy because we're not preachers, but we do want to talk a little bit about the things that we feel are important and how people, maybe there's a misconception of people when they read the Bible, right? You have these stories that are in the Bible that are examples of a bigger thing, but even the things that are not spoken in the Bible have meaning. And that's just crazy to me. It's because, you know, the more you read it, the more you're like, wow, I didn't even think about that, right? And there's just so much. Like, everything is in a order that it needs to be. And what I'm trying to say, I guess, it makes the Bible more realistic than anything. It makes it more truer than anything I've known. You know, it's not. There's proof beyond proof. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was different people, different timelines, different years that they wrote some of these letters in the Bible and some of these gospels, but they're all connected, even though some of these people never met. And so to me, that's intriguing. To me, that's kind of like a tin hat series we're talking about, but it's more reality based. It's more factual because there's evidence both in Roman times and biblical times. We want to dive in on just a few of these. And the first one we're going to talk about is the Samaritan woman, right? Oh, yeah. Jesus went there, bro. Let me tell you. So, you know, have you ever felt like and this is a question to you, Jay. You ever feel like you messed up too much, that like you're too far gone, too ashamed?
Absolutely.
There's no way God's going to forgive me. So
I think almost every person, if are older in your life when you accept Christ, I think everybody has that feeling, right?
Correct.
And a lot of people that don't believe in the Bible or don't want to accept Christianity, that is part of the problem. Well, I'm too far gone. I'm too much of a sinner. There's no way.
Correct. It's almost like someone who like always has this mishap with law enforcement. It seems like they can never get out of getting in trouble. And to one point, they're like, you know what? I'm just never going to get right, and might as well I give up.
Right.
But here's the thing. Let me introduce you to someone who thought the same thing, bro. A Samaritan woman with 5 ex-husbands, bro. 5. Count them, 5, right? And in those 5,
I knew her.
Right, yeah, I knew a woman like that. On top of those 5 ex-husbands, she's living with a man who wasn't even hers. And she's dragging her water jar through the heat of shame and rejection. She didn't go there early in the morning to the well because she avoided it because of her history in the town, in Samaria. But guess who went out of his way to meet her?
The main character in our story.
Hey, Jesus, baby. Let's be clear. Jesus broke every social rule in the book that day. Every single one, right? Because Jews didn't associate with Samaritans. 1, don't do it. And then men don't speak to women like that, and especially alone.
Yeah, in that time.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was a rabbi, so religious leaders sure did hang out with people like that, all right, who had a scandalous past. But you know what Jesus said? Nah, I'll go first. Check me out. He broke it, bro. He's like, watch me. And here's the crazy part. He knew her. And why do you say he knew her? He knew her brokenness because he told her failed marriages, the choices, the pain. But you know what he didn't do, which we do here today? He didn't shame her on that. Right. He just told her the truth. He just told her, hey, this is what's going on, blah, blah. He didn't cancel her like cancel culture does today, right? In like, oh, you're canceled, girl. You ain't going to heaven, right? No.
Scarlet letter.
Right. Had to wear that R on her thing, right?
Yeah.
He offered her something that no one else could. Living water, right? Because that's part of that whole story, the living water. Not religion, not rules, not a sermon, living water. Soul quenching, shame wrecking, identity rebuilding truth. That's it, brother. And that's the importance about the story. But there's more, right? She came to that well for water, but she left with a purpose. She left the jars. If you read the story, she left the jars behind and ran into the village to tell everybody, hey, come meet this guy who told me everything I've done. And the whole village came out to see Jesus. That's not just forgiveness, bro. That's the real trans, the original trans. That's transformation, brother.
Yeah.
You
there
know,
you go.
I think that goes a long way because I believe that she was the first person who he revealed himself as the Christ, as the Messiah, was a Samaritan woman. Not just a Gentile, not a Jew, a non-Jew, but a Samaritan, a race that they were not supposed to associate with. How incredible is that, Jay? There's a reason for that. Did God go to another rabbi? Did he go to him and tell him who he was? Did he
No.
go to someone that followed the laws and in the temple all the time? Who did he go to, bro? The most broken, the most forbidden person that a Jew could associate with.
Yeah, and the big part of that story, if a modern level, right, it shows that somebody cares, Jesus, God, cares about everybody, regardless. And that's the point of that story, is that we think that we're better than all these people, like the homeless person on the street, or pick all these folks, third world countries, all these kind of folks and everything. We're not better. And we all have a brokenness, and God sees all of our brokenness equally. People that are broken in our eyes more than us. What's that saying? There's always somebody out there that has it worse than you.
Yeah.
But the only thing we ever see is everybody has it better than us. We think we're the most broken and we have the most issues, but we forget that there's so many people out there that have so many issues beyond that. So Jesus wanted to show that to all of the people that would eventually be his followers. And that at that time, he is fulfilling prophecy, right?
Correct.
During his life, he's
Correct.
fulfilling prophecy. But there are people in the New Testament now that are going to write of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's a much shorter lifespan because, you know, the Old Testament was written over well over 1,000 years, right? They figure the whole Bible was approximately 1,500 years and like 40 different authors that wrote the Bible. So there's a lot of time there. What he was doing was setting up for the writers of the Bible to be able to have this story that could resonate till now. Think about how long ago that was, right? Over 2,000 years.
Correct.
And now we see it as we are not better than anyone else. And if Jesus can get there with the regular people, and this was a regular person, somebody that went through a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And one of our last episodes talking about trauma and things like that, somebody that had a lot of traumatic things in their life, it's perfect. And this is what Christianity is all about, is about forgiveness.
And you're right. Jesus would reverse floodlighting her, right? He wasn't telling her about his stuff. He was telling her about her stuff, right? So here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that people need to understand. He met her where she was. He didn't wait for her to get it together. He met her in her mess, in her isolation, in her shame, and he offered help. And here's the other thing. He knew everything about her, and yet he stayed. In Samaria, the people that knew about her stayed away from her. You know, whispers in the corners and stuff like that. You know how gossip goes, bro. We had that in high school.
Oh, yeah.
So here's the thing. He stayed. Jesus knew her whole story and still offered her eternal life. What's that saying? The Samaritan, she came for water and she left with a purpose, bro. She went from an outcast to an evangelist. That's transformation right there, bro. That's what you're talking about. And that's the impact about the story. So like that's where we talk about earlier where we said there's a deeper meaning behind that. Jesus wasn't changing her story. He didn't change it. She still had 5 ex-husbands. She still was living with a man that she wasn't hers. He was flipping the entire religion system on its head. That's what he did. He came and he transformed everything, right? All the traditions, changed everything so that not just the Jews, but the Gentiles were also part of it. That's a crazy story, and I love that story because, you know, the more, you know, you start thinking about these things, you're like, wow, that really does make a lot of sense. So now let's go and talk a little bit about our good old friend Barabbas. And you know who Barabbas, right? You know, he was that insurrectionist.
Oh, yeah, he was an insurrectionist.
He was a big insurrectionist, right? He was a violent criminal, right, who walked free, and Jesus took the hit. This guy was guilty, bro. There was no ands, ifs, or buts about it. Dude was guilty. He was waiting in the cell. He was chained up because he was violent, bro. And he was like, this guy was going to die. Let's just be honest. He was going to die.
And the Romans knew that at that time, right? The Romans knew.
Pontius Pilate didn't want to kill Jesus, bro. He's like, nah, man, I don't want to do this.
I don't want that blood on my hands.
Right. He said, you know what? If I'm going to give him, I'll give him an option. They're going to pick Barabbas. Not today, Pontius, not today.
Yeah.
Right?
So he thought.
But why? Because Barabbas was guilty. He was a criminal. He was an insurrectionist. He was a murderer. He was a guy who you don't want to walk around the streets, right? But what was Jesus? innocent. And yet, what? The guilty man walks free while innocent one takes his place. What is that? That is a substitution. That is grace, bro. That is something that's very powerful. And Barabbas didn't ask for it. Barabbas didn't get on his knees and beg Jesus and say, hey, have mercy on my soul and I repent. Dude was just sitting in a prison cell ready to die when suddenly he's free. Jesus literally took the punishment Barabbas was supposed to get. The dude literally got unearned salvation. Does that sound familiar, bro?
Unearned salvation.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
So here's a crazy thing. Let that soak in a little bit, right? That this guy has been given a pardon that he knows he doesn't deserve. He knows he didn't ask for it, right? Let that hit you. Let it soak in a little bit.
Undeserved pardons. Sounds familiar.
It doesn't it? Barabbas isn't some distant figure, right? You know who Barabbas is?
Who is Barabbas?
In our sense, he's us, bro. We're guilty. We're broken. We're rightly condemned. Who steps in? Who took our unearned salvation? Jesus.
Jesus did.
He took the fall for us, bro. Jesus ain't no rat. Jesus, I'm going to take this for you guys. And Barabbas walks. And who hangs? Jesus. That's not a twist in the story, bro. That's the gospel. That is the story right there. That is what the gospel's about. That Jesus died on the cross for our salvation. He literally, bro, this is the crazy stuff that you read the Bible and you read these stories, you're like, wait a minute, that's the entire gospel.
Yeah.
In that story.
Well, if you think you go back into Old Testament times, right? What did they have to do? This is long before Jesus comes along because, after the Old Testament into the New Testament, right, when he's born and for the 33 years that he's here. In the Old Testament, what did they do at that time before you had Jesus die on the cross? Well, you had people had to take innocent lambs, right, and slaughter them.
Yeah, clean. They didn't have blemishes
clean.
And just some
they had
rules.
to be clean and with that right. And that was what Jesus did when he died on the cross. He was that innocent, spotless lamb that died for us, right? And it was the last one, and that's why when he says, "It is finished," that's it. It's done. It's over. Yeah. And so people just don't understand the significance of that and the horrificness of what he endured for us that didn't deserve any of that. Right? Correct. We didn't deserve him doing any of that for us, but here we are.
But let me give you I'm going to give you just a little example of the thought process of the crowd and how it relates to us today, right? So the people had a choice between the Son of God and a terrorist, right? And they chose who? The terrorist, right? So what's that show? It shows
to free him, right?
Correct.
To free him. Yeah.
It shows how warped the human heart can get when it's influenced by fear, by power, by the group think, social platforms, right? It's not about injustice, man. It's about the blindness to the truth. The crowd picked a rebel over a redeemer. And we still do that today, bro. People, absolutely. Who does that? The left. They're out there out loud and speaking and screaming like they're the rebel going against the grain of government, of this Trump government. Just misinformation, groupthink, like in those days of Barabbas and Jesus, and how the crowd, because a group of people were yelling, they wanted Jesus to get crucified. Everybody went with that. That is crazy to me. And that's kind of like the thinking that we're doing today. But do you know that those battle scars, those actual wounds that Jesus received, have a meaning behind them? For example, let me break it down because I put a lot of research into this and thought about it. Right, so the crown of thorns.
Yeah, they crafted a crown of thorns for him and slammed it on his head, mocking him. Yeah.
Right. So let me read to you a verse out of Genesis 3:17-18. Cursed is the ground because of you; it will produce thorns and thistles. That was God. Because of Adam and Eve and what they did. The key there is will produce thorns and thistles. Jesus bore the curse, bro. He bore the curse. Jesus wore the curse on his head. Literally. He just didn't take your sin, bro. He wore your curse. The King of Kings wore a crown of brokenness to restore a broken kingdom. Think about that. When these things were happening and they were being documented, you didn't think about that. It's not until you read the entire Bible that you associate one thing with the other. Like, wait a minute, that has meaning. Here's another one. The nail-pierced hand. So our hands, they represent what we do, right? Our work, our sin, our control, our grasping, right? Jesus' hands were pierced to cleanse what we've touched, what we've taken, what we've done, right? Redemption of our actions, brother. Everything your hands have done, he took that. He redeemed it. And let me tell you something. When God was resurrected, he didn't change skins. He didn't change bodies. He wore the battle-scarred body that he died in.
Right.
Do you remember? because it's in the
Yep.
Bible, right?
Yep. He did. Yeah. He did. It wasn't like a clean, fresh, renewed
Nope.
body. It was,
Nope.
yeah.
It's a reminder to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
The nail-pierced feet. So our feet, they represent our direction, where we're gone, where we've gone, what roads we've taken,
Right.
all the wrong places, the detours, the
Yeah.
rebellion, right? The redemption of our path. That's what God did. His feet were nailed to fix your walk, bro, to reroute your destiny. Think about that, dude. That's deep. That's some
Yeah,
deep
it
stuff
is.
right there, right? You're thinking about that. You're like, oh my God, you know, and that is like, I don't know. It's crazy to me because, and I'll tell you in a little bit where that fulfills a prophecy, right? Now we're going to move on to the stripes on his back, right? And in Isaiah 53:5, by his stripes we are healed. So Isaiah is in what part of the Bible? Old or New Testament? Isaiah is in the Old Testament, right? And they're already, look what it says. By his stripes we are healed, right?
Right.
So those lashes weren't just punishment; they were payment, bro. They're like payment for your healing, right? They were,
and that was prophesized that was going to happen.
Exactly, right? Emotional, spiritual, even physical. Everywhere, every whip of that Roman whip was declaring, this is a price for your restoration.
Right.
Bro,
And it's funny.
Jesus came with receipts, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
right.
know what I mean? His back was torn, bro, so our souls could be whole again.
And here's a little piece of trivia. So when people ask me what's your favorite Bible verse, that's the exact one. It's Isaiah 53:5. Now there's a couple of reasons behind it. One is the meaning that you just talked about, but there is also, I was always into rock bands and stuff when I was, and there was a band back in the day that they actually had Isaiah 53:5 on the cover of their album.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys know who that is, put it in the comment down below, because that's a little piece of trivia there for you from the 80s and 90s.
I'm going to have to look that up too. Now we're going to move to the pierce side, right? You remember the Roman soldier who pierced his side to ensure that he was dead, because they were going to break his legs, and you're not, and that wasn't, it was in the Bible that no bone shall be broken. When they pierced his side, blood and water flowed, not just blood and water,
Right.
blood and water, right? Water represents cleansing, right? Because remember that if you were like, if some dirty person back in the Jew touched the Jew or somebody or the clothes, they had to go to a whole cleansing ceremony, right? They had to cleaned and
correct,
blah blah.
Yeah.
So, and the blood represents life, right? So, okay, guys, here symbol alert. In Genesis, we're gonna go back, right? Eve came from where? Adam's side,
Adam's rib.
Yep. In John, the church is birthed from Jesus' side. Now, you're not going to tell me that's an accident, right? That symbolism is not an accident,
right?
So from his side,
no, absolutely not. That
stuff. You agree,
I mean,
right?
there's no way that could have been, especially 1500 years before, to be prophesized for something like that. I don't have the exact numbers and everything, but there was somebody that put together like the numbers of the prophecies and the things that were fulfilled.
Yeah.
Once Jesus was on this earth, and we do know historically he did exist and everything. Whether or not people believe that he's the Son of God, that's on your own heart and soul. But he was a living character,
right?
During that time, and the fact that the things that he fulfilled from the Old Testament, the chances are like millions to one. You have a greater chance of being struck by lightning than Jesus did of fulfilling all the prophecies.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's amazing, and to think, it's a fairy tale. Now it's not a fairy tale. I mean, and the thing is, and I've said this so many times, when it comes to the 12 apostles, right? Mm-hmm. You have these people that were all like treated horribly after Jesus was gone, and these 12 people were trying to go amongst the world and preach the gospel, exactly what he had told them to do, right? And what the Bible tells us to do, you and I, all of us. And you had one had his skin ripped off, one was thrown to the lions, one was hung, one was crucified upside down.
Yeah.
And the reason why was he crucified upside down?
Because he said that he didn't deserve to be crucified how Jesus was crucified.
He did not deserve to be. Now, think about this, man. These people were told, all you have to do is deny this guy Jesus. That's all you have to do is say, no, he didn't exist. It was all BS,
Yeah.
right? And we'll let you go, or we'll just put you in prison for life, but we won't torture you and do all this stuff. Nope. I'd rather die the most horrific way, because I walked with this man and I saw him perform these miracles and everything. And this is the thing, is that there were people of that time that watched Jesus perform miracles, right? And they still didn't believe. There's a guy, if you don't know his name, Thomas. That's why he's known in the Bible as Doubting Thomas, right?
Or Tomas, for you
Tomas.
Spanish speaking.
And even him, somebody that walked right next to him, always needed proof, right?
Yeah.
And so
Doubting
people say,
Thomas.
well, why doesn't God just come down today and this and that? Well, there are daily miracles. Tons of them happen. And guess what we do? We doubt. We say, oh, no, well, scientifically, blah, 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 blah. And so we don't have the capacity anymore to believe in miracles. You know who believes in miracles? Little kids.
Yeah.
They believe in magic. They believe in all of these things that us as adults, we've become dumbed down and emotionally and spiritually numb to all that kind of thing, right? So it takes us physically reading the Bible. It takes us going to church, doing this, being in, communion with one another, right?
Yeah.
Like, and having conversations and keeping this alive, because it's one of the things, if you take like the Native Americans, right? And this goes for a lot of native populations all over the world, but because they're closest to us, I'll say the Native Americans. Most of their stories and everything was done how? It was verbally done, right? Because they didn't have like an advanced way of writing and keeping a lot of records and things like that. So they would get together and they would pass down their traditional stories and things like that through the years. Well, the thing that we were blessed with was that the areas of the world that the Bible was written through was, Greece and the Roman Empire and everything. What was it called? Aramaic. And these were all really highly developed people. They were really smart. They did writing and everything. So we were very fortunate that, you had the Greeks, you had the Romans, and the Romans were part of the problem, right? However, they kept very good records, and those records included anything that was big that was going on during the time.
Yeah.
And one of the big things that happened during that time was the life of Jesus. And there are records from not just the Bible, but from the Romans, from the Greeks. So there's a lot for us to be proud of the story and know that the story it's the real thing. It's the real deal.
Yep.
And something I wanted to kind of rehash on, we were talking about that first story of the Samaritan woman.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that's in John is the you without sin can cast the first stone, right? That was John 8:7. That's something that we always have to remember, is that we are very judgmental. And there is that whole saying, thou shalt not judge, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we shouldn't kind of judge in a way to say, hey, this person is not a believer and we need to give them all the information and everything. So, and it's up to them. It truly is. It's up to them to make that choice. If they don't, it's not on us. We gave them all the information and everything but if we had the opportunity and didn't take it, right, then that is on us.
Yeah.
With that being said, our thing is not to condemn other people, right? Not to judge other people and not cast stones at people that could be cast right back at us, right? There's a more modern saying of it. What is it? Don't throw stones if you live in a glass house.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You ain't wrong there.
Yeah, because I mean, we're all sinful, and we're all not perfect, man. And to look at other people and shame them and condemn them.
Hypocrisy.
Yeah, it is. It's very hypocritical of us.
Yeah. So back in Genesis 3:15, God says the serpent will strike his heel, but he will crush your head, right? The crucifixion, man, that was a strike. That was a serpent strike right there. But 3 days later, guess what happened? Jesus crushed the enemy's skull. So yeah, those wounds, they tell a story. one of love, redemption, healing, and victory. And guess what? They're permanent, right? Because even doubting Thomas doubted that they saw Jesus resurrected, and it wasn't
Yeah.
until Jesus appeared to them he said, "Go ahead, put your fingers in my wounds," right?
Right.
But because even in eternity, Jesus still bears them, as a reminder that the love he bled for us, right? And that's key and that's important. And I mean, there's stories like this throughout the Bible, guys, that you guys really need to look at it and not just superficially. Don't just read it and say, it's a good reading and not understand it. I have like 3 or 4 Bibles and they're indifferent. They're like, English Standard Version. I have King James, and I have like this basic English one that tells you exactly if you're for dum-dums,
Like
right?
the new international version.
I forget what it's called, but
Yeah.
it's called Amplified Holy Bible.
Oh, okay.
The Amplified Bible that kind of speaks. It speaks English, and here's a key about it, man. You need to do that. There's, like I said, there's stories like this. If you want to know more about like the thief on the cross next to Jesus, people always keep talking about like, oh, you like the Catholics, they talk about like, oh, you have to do deeds to get into the house of God. No, God paid that. It is foolish of us to think that we could redeem ourselves from the original sin. We're not that powerful, right? If we were that powerful, Jesus didn't have to come down and in human form and die, right? So we can't be that selfish. We can't be that self-centered. We can't be that prideful that think that, oh, we could do this on our own. We can't, and that's obvious. So you read these stories, but then combine them and ask questions and look into it and get the Amplified Bible and read and think what it says. And there's a deeper meaning behind the superficial story, right?
Yeah,
there's the story, and then there's the depth of the story, and there's meaning to it, and there's a connectivity from the Old Testament to the New Testament, man. There's this chart, Jay, where it shows like they use color codes to connect like things that from the Old Testament to the New Testament. And this chart is filled with how many connections it makes from the Old and New Testament. Like crazy. And to know that, to read that book, and to know that there was a few authors spread in thousands of years apart, and they all came up with the same type of story. Now, does John, Mark, and Luke, they have some stories? Yes. Do they differ a little bit? Yes. But we're talking about perspectives, right? I could have seen the same accident, but I saw a red jacket, and you could have seen the blue or mauve jacket, right? It's perspective, but the stories align with so many things, and to me, that's incredible. That's impossible, first of all, but to doubt it, and then to know that there's still writings in Roman architecture and stories of Roman writers that speak of Jesus and Christianity.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what evidence they want, right? People believe, crazy stuff about Bigfoot, but yet they don't want to believe about something that's so historical. I don't know. Y'all crazy. Y'all.
Right.
I'm going to give you
Loch Ness Monster. We're going after Nessie, man. That's it.
And I read it that Sun weekly thing. It's kind of like the Inquirer, but for Europe, for the UK.
Yes. Yep.
I remember they had a thing saying that the Loch Ness had a baby, and I'm like, you guys are great. We can't even prove Loch Ness is around, and now you guys say he's got a baby.
You guys, stop it now.
So there's just so many mysteries. And here's the thing: we call them mysteries, or I call them mysteries, but they're not. You just got to open the Bible and read into it and spend some time looking at it and thinking like, wait a minute, that there has to be more to, we read the stories, like I said, the thief on the cross, the wounds in Jesus, the Samaritan woman, and we think of him as superficially like, oh, okay, he did that, that's great. Oh, God turned water into wine, that's great. But there's a meaning behind that, right? There's a story behind that. And somehow, some way, it connects to the Old Testament, right? To the Torah, right? And people are like, nah, it doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? It's like saying like, nah. That's a woman. Never mind the dingaling. He's a woman. You know what I mean? It's like, like, okay, now you just crazy. So I don't know.
Well, I know there's a lot of folks too that will say, well, the Bible has been corrupted, right? Through time. and there was the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? And when they found those had the same scripture in them that the Bible did that we've had all this time, right? Now, there are different translations though, and that's the thing to understand. So if you took like the 10 commandments, one of the commandments is thou shall not. And if somebody right now in their mind said kill, that's not what one of the 10 commandments says. It's thou shall not murder. Killing and murdering are two different things, right? Killing, you kill a cow, right?
Sacrifice a cow.
Sacrifice,
or kill a cow to eat.
You don't murder a cow,
Yeah.
right? Murder is intentional thing against harm for somebody, right? So it's really important to know those nuances in the Bible and be able to understand that and research it. Just like you said, Joe. I mean, that's a huge one, is to research the different things and think for yourself. Don't believe all the social media and stuff out there, because if there's one thing that's going to happen, the devil's going to lie and try to twist your thoughts. Not the devil.
Wait a minute. Isn't he called the deceiver?
He's the deceiver. Yeah. And this is the funny thing. There's people that will say, they have all the devilly stuff and I believe in the devil, but I don't believe in God or Jesus or whatever. Well, please understand that without a God, there's no such thing as a devil either.
Well, you can't have one without the other. It's like yin and yang. You can't have a left
up
without
and
a right.
down, left and right.
You can't have a day without a night. You can't have, you know what I mean? It's like, and they're probably lefties, bro, because they've lost all sense of reality and common sense. So this podcast is for everyone, but you guys really sometimes just, man, left field, bro.
You are on Joe's last nerve, let me tell you.
Oh, man, I don't got that many either, man. You're the last one. Last one. It's a very thin one, too, because I'm a little guy.
Plucking that last one.
Oh, baby Jesus, help me.
Doing that. Well, everybody, thanks so much. Before we get out of here, make sure and smash that like button, subscribe to Outspoken, share the show with everyone you know, and hit the bell icon to get updated whenever we upload a new episode. So make sure and take care of one another.
And remember, do better, be better.
And as always,
God bless America.
America.
We'll see you guys next week. Have a blessed week.
See you next Tuesday.